The greatest car ever made, no one bought. Hello and welcome back to MIA Luxury Cars. For today's video, we are going to talk about the greatest car ever made. Let's get started. Toyota is Japan's pride. Land Cruiser, Lexus, and Supra are how I and you know them, but the world knows them as the Toyota Camry, Toyota RAV4, and Toyota Prius. This is the milquetoast brand of the unpretentiousness and dependability from the anime and sushi-loving little island nation, and they sell a lot of them. Every year, more Toyota Corollas are sold than almost any other vehicle. But as you can see, Toyota can be more than just a profit-driven behemoth sometimes. And if to say to today's world, yes, we create the automotive equivalent of beige paint, but we are still masters of the art of automobile design, and the Toyota 2000 GT was their first major resistance. Before the Supra, before even the Celica, before, well, any Toyota you even give a damn about, Toyota wrote a blank check and birthed one of the most unique and beautiful sports cars of all time. A fusion between Yamaha and Toyota that made an engine that saying that inspired. It had lines that defined a sports car for generations that followed. Toyota took the world of long-nosed, fast, fun cars and they won. The 2000 GT didn't just change the world's opinion of Toyota. It changed the world's opinion of what a Japanese sports cars can even be. Then quietly 33 years passed. Sure, Toyota had some hits, but nothing that even came close to the level of 2000 GT that broke the mold in 1967. And Japan as a whole never really rivaled at that moment again either. 3 decades passed and the automotive world exploded. Supercars became the word on everyday's mind. Ferrari became the household name in red paint and unreliability. Lamborghini gave us the Miura and the Contact and the Diablo. Hell, even Ford made a supercar and took down Ferrari and their GT40. So why didn't Toyota or really any company in Japan make even a ripple in the supercar social club? I mean, sure there was the NSX, but let's be honest here with each other. The NSX doesn't honestly evoke emotions like a Ferrari F40. It's less of a supercar and more of a mid-engine accord. I mean, you just need to look at what supercars were doing in the 90s. A McLaren F1 could hit 240 miles per hour and had 618 horsepower. An R34 GTR made PlayStation noises when you started it and had about half any ponies. There was the Nissan R390, but I bet you don't even know what that is because it barely existed. From 1967 until the mid-2000s, Japan really had nothing to stand toe-to-toe with the supercar world around it, because Japan was known for two things: reliable, cheap, and definitely not change your underwear fast supercars. So it's 1999 and it's the term of millennium, and it's time to change that. Japan needs a hero. An Enzi Ferrari, a Carroll Shelby, but where are we going to find such a person? At Honda, the best that they could do is the V6 Ferrari. Nissan? They're going to give you a supercar made out of frontier parts. Mazda? In the 90s, those were basically just rebarred Fords. Mitsubishi? We want a supercar, not a really fast TV. Now, there was really only one company capable of taking on such the insurmountable task in Japan. A company that was something to prove and a company with a lot of money. Toyota. And it was Toyota, but Toyota just paid for it. Now, the real vision here came for the Haruhiko Tanahashi. It's the year 2000s and the world has been destroyed by computers and Y2K. Lexus's parent company is Toyota started Project P280, a very secret project with very low expectations. Its goal? To create a supercar capable of going 200 miles per hour. And in 2001, Tanahashi is promoted to the head of Lexus's Project Z, where he began creating Lexus's new project car, the Lexus LFA. Prior to working on Honda LFA, Tanahashi had his fingers in everything that you love about Toyota. Sorer, Baristo, Celica, this man knew how to make a car. Handle his own goal with the LFA was to create ultimate driving pleasure with his experience and his leadership and his ideas. Toyota saw a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to create something truly special. And once again, 40 years later, Toyota signed a blank check and Tanahashi got to work. The first step, Japan's Carroll Shelby needed his own Ken Miles, so he enlisted the help of Hiromu Naruse. You see, Naruse was a legendary Toyota racing driver and also quite an experienced idea man. He had been with Toyota for decades and his hands were part of the creation of the 2000 GT, the entire Toyota Motorsport division, the MR2, and of course, yes, everyone's favorite, the Supra. This boy had clout. He created a list of 500 specific items that a Japanese supercar needed to have, and this list included everything: the shape of the steering wheel, the materials used in the doors, and the angles of every single suspension component. Together, this duo started to craft the Lexus LFA. An ambitious engineer trying to prove himself, an experienced racing driver that knows exactly what a car should be. If this all sounds very familiar, this is basically Ford versus Ferrari with a Japanese twist. All that's missing for this to be a truly similar story is endurance racing. Well, all about this power duo continued to develop the LFA from 2001 to 2003, tweaking, shaving, pushing, and envelope wherever they would. There were hard times and challenges for sure. If you know anything about Japanese corporate structure, the bureaucracy must been like 400 layers deep. Lexus or Toyota started to get kind of cold feet. Thankfully, Naruse had an ace his sleeves and the crown prince of the Toyota name, Akayo. Toyota was willing to go to fight with the top brass at Toyota to get the project to continue. Without his help, 3 years of hard work from these two would have been dashed away. The project would have never continued. In 2003, the Lexus LFA was spotted in the wild for the first time. At where else but the Germany's Nürburgring? Because of course, if you're trying to make a perfect supercar, you take it to the perfect testing ground, the most grueling and exhausting race course in the entire world. But it wouldn't be until 2 years later in 2005 when Lexus revealed their LFA, the World. At the 05 Detroit Motor Show, an all-aluminum prototype sat on display, claiming to have an absolutely wild 5-liter V10 and touting a 20-mile-per-hour top speed. This was unlike anything Japan had ever released to the world, and journalists went insane to the public, sat with mouth agape and fingers pointed forward, reaching out to touch what could finally be successor to the 2000 GT. This was no Supra, this was a supercar, and it challenged the narrative that everyone thought about Lexus, which is that they're basically for middle managers and people that think golf gang should be in the Olympics. Toyota was totally surprised. They did not expect the hype that they received by showing this concept. After the Detroit show, Toyota started to take the project seriously. For 2 years more, the LFA would stay hidden to the public, and then came back in 2007 with some very real differences. First, instead of just being a hunk of sculpted aluminum, this new car had an actual real interior, an actual real mid-mounted V10, and the new now synonymous with performance, Lexus F badge. More importantly though, the aluminum was gone. The car was now formed from carbon fiber. That might not sound surprising to you right now in 2022. In 2007, Toyota had no idea how to make anything out of carbon fiber. Only the most hardcore race junkies and supercars were made out of this stuff. But this was the secret ingredient to make the secret sauce that was the LFA. LFA, and it was proof that the LFA was made without limits. Had this been any other project, Toyota would have micromanaged everything out of the car. It would not be made out of carbon fiber. It would have some power plant from a truck in. The project would have been scrapped because it wasn't profitable. The LFA would have been possible. But luckily for you and me, this is not that story. The next major milestone wouldn't happen until 2009, 9 years after Tanahashi started his project Dream Car. The LFA was finally unleashed upon the world, competing in 24 hours of Nürburgring with the express purpose of improving the platform. They didn't do very well, if I'm quite honest. One caught fire and the other one never got above 14th place. But the knowledge and experience gave Toyota the confidence to go forward with production of the car. And then look at the 9 years into development. Let me be very clear. It is insane that Toyota went through with it. They are the stuffiest of stuffy Japanese companies, and they knew this car was never gonna make them money. Yet here they were. It's 2010 and they were about to make 500 of one of the most insane supercars to ever grace the planet. They had to build the machines to make the car. Every single engine made for an LFA was hand-built and signed off on. They limited production to just one car per day so that one was rushed. Each LFA was unique. They might look the same on the outside, but there were up to 30 billion different configurations of LFAs, and each and every one built was documented from start to finish with a 3,500-page booklet. Each car is a piece of Toyota history, cataloged with a future generation to research. This truly was a bespoke Japanese supercar, every bit as extravagant, every bit as over the top, every bit as expensive as the timeless Italian masters, and with a sound that would make even Ferrari cry. Make a company that was known for prices and forerunners. This was a shot across the bow at the Italians, at the Germans, at the whole world, and the automotive crowds went wild. It was impossible not to. Karen drivers said that even accounting for the price tag, the Lexus LFA was a performance bargain. Chris Harris called it the best car he's ever driven. And so did Auto Week, Car Magazine, and even Top Gear's Jeremy Clarkson, which is why naturally everyone went out of the bought them, thereby proving to Toyota that supercars were in the future and that Toyota should remain committed that car enthusiast. Everyone who wanted an LFA couldn't afford it, and all the people with old money that could afford it, well, they didn't really understand. I mean, did you really want to spend nearly $500,000 on something with a Lexus badge on it? Performance be damned. You're buying a supercar, you're buying it for the badge. The Lexus LFA actually struggled to sell. I mean, there were only 500 of them. How hard could it be? And if that news isn't sad enough, well, brace yourself. At the ripe young age of 66, while testing the Nürburgring Edition LFA at the ring itself, Himaru Nuruse, who helped create Japan's greatest supercar ever, sadly passed away in an incident involving the car itself. And while it's sadly to the end of one of the most influential Japanese people in all automotive history, it is not the end of the LFA itself, because in 2011, Lexus revealed to the world that Nürburgring edition of the LFA coming off as something between a tribute of proof of concept. The Nürburgring edition LFA was faster. It was lighter, tighter, made more horsepower, and was essentially the perfect car, made more perfect. With a 7-minute 14-second lap time, the Nürburgring Edition LFA became the fastest production car to lap the Nürburgring. This was the absolute pinnacle of Japanese engineering. Every ounce of performance squeezed out of an already perfect chassis. The engine singing a note that set your heart on fire, razor sharp refined to perfection. And then 7 years after the initial prototype lapped the ring, after countless efforts of hundreds of people, after untold millions spent, after the death of its own creator, after taking the world by storm in December 2012 and last LFA left the production line, 10 years of development, 2 years of production, and 550 cars all changed the definition of the word Lexus, a car that redefined the expectations of journalists and the general public alike about what Japanese was capable of doing when it just lets its dream fly. Nothing from Italy, Germany, or America held a candle to the LFA. And here we are, 10 years later, nothing has really beat it since. And that is the story of the Lexus LFA. Now, what can you say about the greatest car ever made? Please let me know by leaving a comment below. And if you enjoyed this video, please press the like button, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thank you for stopping by to watch. See you on our next video.